Hello, and welcome to Who Are You Calling a Professional, hosted by Snack Time Media. I'm your host, Katie, and I can't wait to dive in with y'all today.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm so ready. This is so exciting.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, I'm so happy that you are here. Before we kind of dive in, I wanted to give you a moment to say your name, your role, job title, and industry, and kind of anything you wanted to intro about your job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Ceci Masnick. I work in journalism, but specifically, I'm a social media editor within the journalism industry. I work for like a newspaper, but I don't really do a lot with the paper itself, obviously because it's digital. Yeah, that's me.
I love it. So, how did you first hear about this company or find this job?
So before I was at this job, I was at another newspaper in South Florida, and and I was sort of looking for jobs that were a little bit more specialized because I was doing a lot of just digital journalism there, everything under the sun, like newsletters, push alerts, social media. So I was applying to a bunch of jobs because I was ready to leave my home state, and then this one kind of just surfaced.
Did you find it on LinkedIn or how did you kind of find it originally?
Yeah, so actually, I applied to a fully different role at this company a couple years before I got this one, and I didn't end up getting that role. But when I was following up to hear about the job, I kept pestering the editor there. So yeah, I didn't end up getting it. It went to someone else, but I think that he remembered me and maybe even liked that I was a pestering person. So I went through a couple phases where other jobs at the company came up and they reached out, and either the job didn't work or it went to a different candidate until finally this one came along. I ended up going to a journalism conference, met up with one of the editors there because I stayed connected to a different editor. And when she told me about this role, it just sounded like a good fit. So it was kind of a couple years of connections after not getting a role there.
And you say pester, but is that something like texting them, emailing them
Yeah,
monthly, annually, daily? What does that look like?
no, for sure. Good question. That was like, I have been told that when you haven't heard back, it's like good to wait. I mean, you send a thank you email after the interview itself. So I did that. I interviewed with a bunch of people for this first role and sent a bunch of thank you emails. And then, but he was kind of my point person. He was the person I had like reached out to originally when I had applied. So then, after a couple of weeks of radio silence, I emailed him again, one to ask about like what the status of the job was, but also to share, I believe, like an idea I had. Like I was like, oh, I was thinking about this, and just to offer something else that I maybe didn't talk about. And he replied back and said they're still in the process, but I kept getting radio silence. So I feel like I think it was a couple weeks after that, I emailed him again, and then I think he took a while to respond to that one. And then when he did, we sort of had just like this email back and forth. But I could tell I wasn't getting this job. So we had a good connection over email. So.
That's impressive. I like the persistence that you have. I feel like that really
Yeah, he actually said later, like when I ended up getting this job, he actually said like he thought it was a good quality. And I think that makes sense because in journalism you do have to be persistent. Sometimes people don't want to talk and it takes convincing or just like they need reminders. So I think it ended up being, even though it was kind of uncomfortable to do, it sounded like it was a good thing.
I'm impressed. Takes courage, you know? And so, why did you end up choosing kind of this job over any of the others or looking at this job or interested in this job even over the other jobs?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I honestly wasn't 100% sure exactly what I wanted to do, but this fell within the ballpark. I think that I felt like I had skills in telling stories over platforms, but I didn't ever feel necessarily like I was a social media person. So I think this job just happened to be a job that fell within that realm, but was also a company that I was excited about within a city that I was excited about. So it just felt like those lined up.
Was there any hesitation before you took this role?
Okay, not really. I feel like not really until the last possible second where I just get those nerves of, "Is this the right thing for my life?" But the job itself, I felt like as it went on, the process went on, there was never a moment where I was like, "Should I be doing this?" It was actually the move, like the physical move itself that felt like the bigger hurdle rather than the career. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That was such a big move, I feel like. Across the country,
Ye
for real. It's impressive.
yeah, yeah.
So I kind of want to know about more of what you do in your job. So walk me through kind of a day. What does it look like? What are you focusing on, working on? What are you doing?
That's a yeah, I get this question a lot. What do I do? It depends on the day, but I would say an average day is, I am sort of logging on around 8:30 AM. And, I, you know, sometimes have a sense of the, like, larger stories that we are publishing that day, but sometimes I don't. So I feel like I take some time in the morning to look through and see what our, like, biggest talker stories are, our stories that are, performing the best traffic-wise on site, and then I start making decisions about which stories fit which platforms, or is there, like, an angle in a story that we should be highlighting as, like, an entryway to get people to read? Is there something that has an inherent question about it that people would want answered in a video format or a text card format? Or so it's just kind of fitting these stories into places on platforms. So I begin doing a lot of reading of stories, mapping out sort of what stories I want to highlight on what particular platforms. And then it's kind of running through that, saying, okay, so in the morning, I'm going to schedule out some Instagram posts. I think these two stories like seem to, have a lot of comments, or they're getting a lot of traffic, or they fit what people have been talking about over the past few weeks. So it might be doing that. And so that sort of thing across platforms. Then in the morning, we have a stand up meeting with our video team where, we all sort of pitch ideas or learn about the ideas that they have in the works to see if there are things that we should have daily turns on. Are there a lot of questions people are asking that we think makes for a good explainer? Are there projects coming our way that I should know about as I pace out, social posts throughout the day? This is usually specifically for like Instagram, TikTok, but also sometimes we do videos elsewhere, depending on the platform or depending on the story itself. And then my day sort of goes on from there. It never is a perfect day because I work in news, and inevitably, something happens that day that is unexpected, and we have to like reshift our full budget. Say, oh, this happened, so we're moving everything down. We're cutting this out. We're rewriting this because the story has changed. The conversation has changed.
So do you enjoy the fact that every day you're kind of on your toes as what's to come? Is that been part of the job that you enjoy, or what is that like?
It is. It's chaotic, but I think that makes it exciting too. Some days I really wish that we could predict all the news so that we could have like this easy day that goes exactly to plan. But I also, just generally speaking, like working in a field where the unexpected happens, and where we like are really thinking about like the lives people live and how they are changing every second according to like, policy news that happens, or like things happening around the city, or just like fun lifestyle stories that influence how you live your day to day. So I think it is fun that we are always, experimenting. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that definitely makes the days go by faster probably.
it
It makes
definitely
it more
does.
interesting.
Definitely does. Yes.
And then with you knowing how to put things on a certain platform, are you analyzing data a lot, or are other folks doing that and passing it off to you?
Yeah. So we have, I, it's a mix. We have someone within like our team whose specific job is analytics. But this person does analytics across the entire newsroom, and my job looks specifically at analytics for social media platforms.
Mhm.
So we are doing that. It is not always like a day in my day to day, but we often have like quarterly, reports where we like look back, or there are. I feel like you develop some like gut sense of like understanding how like metrics this day influence what you post the next day. So absolutely we have to look at that because that tells us everything about our readership. And I think also it influences like particular platform growth. Like we always think about how the goals for the entire, I don't know if this is getting too nitty gritty, but like the goals for the entire newsroom are different from the goals on my team, right? Because when we
Yeah.
think about social traffic goals, we are kind of stuck in place because we sort of operate on platforms owned by tech companies that are not companies that we own. And so
Yeah.
algorithms change, and what people want from these platforms change. And often these platforms uh, the goal is to keep people on platform, right? So that inherently means that
Mhm.
people aren't used to this pattern of like clicking out and reading stories. And that means that our
Mhm.
goals are not always having them read stories. The goals are like engagement metrics. Like specifically when we look at some like video platforms, we're looking at like shares and saves because that tells us
Yeah.
reader patterns. It tells us if readers like something so much that they wanted to tell a friend about it. It tells us if they like something so much that they want to come back to it. Whereas on other like text-based platforms, Facebook or X or Blue Sky or Threads, like some of our goals are more we do want them to click on things. So it's an odd thing where it's based on the platform itself, but
Yeah.
also like subscription goals and wider things for the industry don't always apply to this particular team.
So then are you making the graphics that people would see on X or on Instagram or things like that?
Yeah, sometimes it
Mhm.
depends on what they are. We do like on some particular platforms, we do mostly link posts. So that is, an image pulled from the story itself. But
Yeah.
for some graphics, like I can do basic ones, yes. But we sometimes work with like we're very lucky to have a design team and a graphics team. So sometimes when we want to pull in things like that, it's a team effort.
No, that's cool. That's helpful to kinda understand where the it starts with you and ends with you and kind of in between.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of kind of your experience here, what has there been a moment that's been very rewarding, or what is the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part of my job is when I am this is like the worst and best. You could get both of it, but I feel like when you are reading the comments and you see people yeah, you can have like the worst parts of your job there too, but also the best parts because, I feel like we can only understand how a story, really affects people by like having them tell us that. And I think that's the beauty of social media is that we have this place for people to like tell us things directly or to have conversations with each other. So I think the most rewarding part is when you are sort of in a comment section and you realize that story is really resonating with people or changed people's minds or just like gave people joy or made them think differently.
That's awesome. I'm impressed that you read the comments. I think that can be intimidating, so that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and, like, you really have to in this role, though. I mean, I think
Yeah.
when we think about data, we think about, like, quantitative and qualitative data, and I think about qualitative as things these comment sections, like, you can't, like, numerically calculate them, but they mean something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I've kind of seen you in this role over the last couple years, and I know you work some events or sometimes there's something happening and you have to go, but what
Mhm.
would you describe as a busy week versus a normal week in this role?
Yeah. I think a busy week is when we have a lot of projects stacked up too. Because I think in some ways, like it is a quote unquote easier when it is, the daily grind of like these stories come out, we do our job with them, we move on to the next day, we do our job. But when we have larger projects stacked on top of them, or just like big news events, um, those shift everything. Because often, you're working with other teams to get things proved or to create things on the side or to think about rollout in a way that feels different than the daily. So yeah, I think a busier week would just be when you have more things on your plate that are outside of that.
And then this question kind of goes back to you answering what you do all the time, but
Mhm.
is there anything that people think that your job is that's actually not your job at all?
Yeah, it was funny because when I first started this particular role, I remember telling a family friend about it, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're just like Emily in Paris." And um, and I was like, "Wow, that is a fascinating media representation of this that I feel is not like totally accurate." But a funny way that people, think about this. So I feel like sometimes people think the job is just the posting part, right? Or that
Mhm.
the posting itself is like a one to one. Like you take a photo and you post it. You put the story online and you post it. And forget about the like strategy part that can be like a pain in the butt. But that there's a lot of planning that goes into these posts and that there's a lot of like language tweaks. And particularly when we're doing projects, sometimes we are tweaking language like again and again and again because in journalism, it is so important that the words are exactly correct and that you mean
Oh, yeah.
exactly what you say and that they're not misinterpreted. So I think that is the the part of it that is misunderstanding.
That's honestly so impressive. That's hilarious that you get compared to Emily in Paris.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I want to be embarrassed.
Is there anything kind of in this role that's either really stressful or kind of the hardest part of the job?
Yeah, I think that news and being in breaking news situations can inherently be stressful, but I think that I've been in these roles long enough that they you can like have stress but not let it affect your work process, right? There's a level of like I need to get this done quickly or get this out. But I feel like more stressful moments are when I don't know, we've had moments where we have had to like issue corrections on things. And there's
Mm,
something about like uh, having to be transparent about, wrongness that feels stressful even though it's the right thing to do. So, yeah, I feel that there are definitely parts of it that are stressful, but you kind of learn that they can't change your workflow. Yeah.
love it. I mean, I think that's a good way to learn overall in life, so
Yeah, yeah,
impressive.
absolutely, right?
Getting into more of the balance that you have with this role,
Mhm.
how many hours do you find yourself working each week on average?
Who would this I really try my best for technically speaking, 37.5 is my, so
Mhm.
right, right, right. It depends on the week. I think also as I've gotten older and been in this career longer, I have gotten better at putting up true, like, the end of the workday boundaries. But, I don't know. I really don't feel like lately I've been going so overboard.
Mm.
And when I do, I put in, comp time or overtime, depending on who's listening, because legally I can and I'm allowed to. Um, so I don't know, maybe lately, uh, like I've done some weeks where I have put in like, 45 or something, but I really tried to hit this like 37.5, 40,
Yeah.
uh, 40 limit. Yeah.
So once you log off at your 37.5 hours
Mhm.
each
Thank
week,
you, thank
are
you, thank you.
you do you feel like you're actually truly unplugging, or what does that look like?
Oh, this is the issue with working in social media is that it happens that the place that you used to be able to unplug is also a place where I come across our work and then think about it a lot. So yes, you are able to unplug. I think I have found just like non-device things help me unplug. But then also it's a job that sometimes you are forced to be on because of the nature of news. When huge news events have happened, I've gotten a call from an editor, and I have like logged on. Or sometimes there are things that need to be done out of hours. That being said, I think we have gotten better about saying what is the priority? Is this a thing
Yeah.
that can be fixed tomorrow? Have we trained up enough people that if they spot something, they are able to fix that? And I think that's the true part of it is being able to delegate so that you can unplug.
No, that's great, and that's a good call out that working in social media is tricky when you go on social
Yeah,
media and everyone's, like, on I don't know. I think that'd be
I
harder
know. When
than
you
people
come across
realize.
things and then I'm reading it and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, do people hate this?" And then I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's stressful. And so, the next thing we wanted to talk about is who makes a good candidate. So, is there something that you've seen a quality in someone who makes someone really succeed in this role?
I think someone who's really able to pivot is important, and I think I've gotten a lot better at that. I don't think I was always good at that, and I still think I could be better at it. But I think good candidates are people who, are able to be okay with dropping something to move on something else, but then to be able to come back to it, and people who are able to balance their time well because there's just a lot of moving parts. I also think someone who likes to experiment, I think these platforms, like, it can feel like a daily grind of making sure they're all, like, quote unquote fed. We feed the beast, make sure these platforms like have enough stories on them that people are constantly entertained or like that they're being able to read things. But people who can just like have fun because at its nature, I think these platforms I hope that they still are, but definitely used to be also just places where you could go to see things that you like or are interested in, or
Yeah.
see humor within this daily spin of the algorithm. So yeah, people who like to experiment and have fun with words.
I love that. That describes you so well, honestly.
Yeah, okay.
Is there anyone No, it does. I feel like that's exactly you.
That's so funny.
Is there anyone who kinda would hate this job then, on the other side?
Yeah, I think people who hate social media would hate it. And no. Um, I think people who don't like I think I mean, this is hard to I think people who, like, don't like reading comments or who shy away from feedback, um, and that sounds like a bad thing, and I don't think that's a bad thing to be a person who is like, "Oh, I don't, like, want to see the way people talk about all these things." I think that's, like,
Yeah.
a helpful unplugging thing, but I also think that this would be a difficult job because you just sort of have to understand that sometimes people really don't like a thing or have criticisms, and sometimes they are fair and sometimes they are not, but it's good for you to, like, take those in. So, I think that that would be tough.
Yeah. No, that's a good call out. And people who hate social media.
Yeah, yeah, if you don't like it, probably not the best job to work in it, but
Is there any mistake that you've seen people make when they're trying to enter this field?
I mean, I guess it would just be I think people who, like, are successful are able to, like, do a lot of things within the journalism sphere, right? So I think
Mhm.
that maybe a mistake would be not having experienced those other parts of it, even if you're
Yeah.
yeah, if you're, like, maybe limited in understanding, like, how a story by nature is put together. I think that's so helpful even if that's not my current job. So I think maybe I would just sort of suggest rather than say it's a mistake, that they understand, like, the different aspects of everyone's job within the newsroom because they really all tied together so well, and it's so helpful to understand how other people do their jobs to be able to, like, jump in and help them show their story.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that. Was there ever a time where you realized that this was kind of the right or the wrong role for you?
I'm still thinking about it.
No,
Um,
that's a good answer.
I think I don't know. I think that I feel like I have to assess how I feel big picture about it, and that's an assessment that is always happening, but I feel like I leave enough days feeling like I have, like, energy during the days and that I'm excited about what's happening, that it
Yeah.
feels like it's a good spot for me, but I'm also open to the fact that that energy might change, and I don't know if I that means, like, a shift in, like, the industry I'm in, or if it just means trying a new thing. But I sort of feel like, honestly, people who are in digital roles in journalism, I feel like I talk to so many of them, and so many of them make it sound like they are not sure what their future careers will be, and they're open to that job or role that they have in the
Yeah.
future not existing yet because things constantly change. Like social media roles did not exist a while ago, or like particular audience roles and the way we think about audience didn't exist. So yeah, I think it's just kind of being open to to what is my interest and how does that shift how we tell stories in today's, in the technology we have today.
Yeah, that's a good answer, and I feel like it leads into kind of the next things we were gonna talk about was your career progression, so it's
Yeah,
interesting. I feel like I haven't heard of a role where you don't know if the career even exists when you're thinking
it's
about
kind
it.
of fascinating. It's such a thing people really say is that you'll ask what they want to do in the next 5 years, and they're like, I'm not really sure of even what this role will look like in the next 5 years. But I think that's kind of an exciting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. So, when you're thinking, is that kind of your mindset looking forward of what is next for you? Just is that kinda how you see it too?
Yeah. I think in some ways I don't fully know. I think in journalism as a whole, I will be able to say, and so this applies to me as well. I'll just say reporting first. I guess you sort of begin as like an entry level reporter, and you might
Mhm.
cover things that are, that are easier to hop on and develop sources. And then as you advance, you kind of, might take a different beat that is, harder to source on or like has more stakes in it. And then I think some people think that advancement is like editor roles, like where then you are like overseeing and editing reporters. And it's funny to realize that's not always the case, right? That it's a fully different role. And sometimes people really want to be editors. And sometimes I have met people whose career progression is reporter through the end.
Yeah.
And I think sort of in my team, that's the case too. There are like more advanced managerial roles that you can grow into as you master what strategy looks like and how to manage a team and all of these things. But I also think you could exist just becoming more advanced in a particular role. So I don't know if this answers your question because I don't really
Yeah.
know what career progression for me specifically might look like. Like I hope that it is becoming better at my job and possibly like having more responsibility with like experimentation and project work that we're doing and community work, but I don't know fully.
No, that's a great answer, and I think that kinda just plays nicely into the fact that your future role might not exist now,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah, yeah,
interesting too.
yeah. Who knows?
So you've been in this role for a few years now, and I guess the next question that I wanted to talk about was in terms of your pay,
Mhm.
if you're comfortable, whatever you're comfortable sharing, kind of like where you started and where you're at now, and if you feel like you're paid fairly in your role.
Yeah. So I guess I will say when I first started out like in Florida, I as a digital producer, now looking back, I'm like, how did I do this? I started making $38,000 a year.
Wow.
And then yeah, very fun. I think also it was it did I feel like I'm sounding so old, but it did feel different then because housing was less like I could still like afford like housing with that, even though a lot of my paycheck was going toward that. And then I had a raise while I was there, like pushing past 40. And then when I got
Mhm.
this role, I nearly doubled it. And then I am now sitting at about 82K. Yeah.
Nice. Wow, that's more than double than when you started, so
Yes,
congratulations.
yes. So, I mean, I feel like someone still say, for like larger cities that is maybe not like up to par with it. And I think these can vary a lot. I feel like it's a big thing on Twitter to see like or X, shall I say. When when roles are posted and they are like roles that are in this social media sphere, but they demand so much of people, but they also like pay so little. So I think that range can really
Yeah.
uh be vast, which is bad. I think this is maybe an industry that, like, if you don't work at one of the top, like, national papers, the pay is, uh, not not good. But I feel like right now, I feel that I am being paid fairly at the same time.
Definitely, and I feel like that's very just impressive to start like, as 37 or whatever and kinda get all the way up is a huge accomplishment in so few years.
Yeah, but also for folks out there, you should demand more. Always negotiate.
I always love that plug.
Yeah.
Is there anything that your lifestyle has changed as this role? So, I mean, you just said you doubled your salary. Is your lifestyle different because of that doubling, or how does that look?
I mean, I think I definitely have yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm like a this is not a salary to be a crazy spender on. So, I mean, I also live in a much more expensive city. So, I think in some ways, yes, I feel like I'm at a place where I do live with roommates, but I also feel that I am not like constantly burdened by like bills that I have to pay. I feel very fortunate and comfortable to not feel like I'm hitting that wall. So I feel like in some ways it has changed where I don't feel stressed about like rent or daily budgeting or monthly budgeting, but I'm also not like going crazy.
Then with this role, in your experience, what doors do you feel like have been open because of the work you've been doing?
I mean, I feel in journalism also there's something to be said about the company and connections as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like in some ways it has opened up those things where I feel like people maybe want to connect more than they did at my past place, which is always helpful. I love chatting with people and meeting people. But I feel like one of the biggest stories is it's made me more like confident. I feel like I'm at a point in my career where I feel confident making decisions about things. And if I were to go somewhere else, I think I would feel that I have an understanding of how this works, which feels like the bare minimum. And yet, yeah,
I think that that's huge, the confidence that you gain and just knowing that you can trust yourself, and
yeah.
I think that's not even close to bare minimum. I think that's, like, the best thing you could get out of a job, to be honest.
Okay, fair, fair. I know it's funny to think about the way I feel like I used to, like in specifically in breaking news situations, the way it used to feel like so much more of a panic, and now I kind of understand how to move in those.
Yeah. No, I'm impressed. I think that's not even the bare minimum at all, to be honest.
Wow, thank you so much, Katie. This is so affirming.
Then I was curious, we kinda mentioned this, but you said folks can either stay in their role at the same
Mhm,
org, move around roles a little bit
mhm.
at the same org. Is that the most common, or do folks typically jump from organization to organization? What do you see more often?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the company itself. I feel like, when I was starting out, um, a lot of young people, for pay reasons, like you jump around a lot.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. You also are flexible in like cities you can live in, even though sometimes it does feel like journalism is limiting in particular cities. But I feel like it depends. I think the company I'm at now, I feel that we have both. We have people who seem that they're in it for the long run and people
Yeah.
who have been here for decades and decades. But we also have people who shift around. So I don't really have an answer for that. I think it depends on the person, but I think a lot of it is pay related.
Yeah. Do you ever see people to go to a role that's not journalism at all? Or is that less
For
common?
sure. No, no, for sure. I think it depends on kind of the life stage you're at, I will say. Like some of it is pay related because you can use these skills and make a lot of money in other
Yeah.
industries. And I have seen people do that. There's like corporate communications or like marketing roles or things like that. But I also think I've seen a lot of it because of life stage they're in. There's like a element of like even if you are able to unplug, going back to that conversation, it's a job that like can be high stress and can be
Yeah.
demanding of time. I mean, we have a lot of mothers who work here, but, like, sometimes I've seen people, when they choose to have kids, not in this company, but, like, maybe elsewhere, like, shift because they want a level of balance, so I think I think a lot of people do leave, but the good thing is that there are a lot of communication related roles that seem like they really value, roles you acquire in journalism.
Yeah. That's awesome, and that's kinda good to know what's a potential path.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely, yeah.
In terms of your role specifically, do you feel like you are at the ceiling, or do you feel like there is a ceiling for what you could make or the title that you could get?
I don't think I'm at the ceiling. I feel like in some ways, I think I talk to people my age, and we're like mid career. Are we late career? I don't know what we are now.
No, I think we're early.
We're late.
We're 30,
um,
but we're early.
yeah. Whoa, revealing my age. But I think that sometimes we still feel like we're entry in some ways, but I no, I feel like it's definitely not the ceiling. I feel like there's a lot of places to go.
Okay, that's good to know too. And then my final questions are just if someone wants to get this role, how do they do it? So, what is the fastest path to get a role like this?
The fastest path to get a role like this, I think I don't know fastest because so many people have sort of different paths. A common one is to either study journalism or have like done things in college related to journalism. But I've also seen people who have totally done career pivots outside of that. So I feel like the fastest way, I guess, would be to sort of understand like specifically what you want to do within this industry. Like if you are a person that wants to cover education, like making sure that you one, have some sort of background in reporting or journalism widely, but also really can dial in on what it means to report on education. So I think that if you have like a beat you're seeking or like a specific job in the digital journalism world, like really being able to dial in because I think when you talk to editors, that's so important. I will also say I think like one of the fastest ways to just like reach out to people. I feel like when I was
Yeah.
applying to jobs, one of the things that felt like it really moved it for me was being unafraid to just like cold email people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's full circle moment. That's impressive.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Then do you need a degree in general or need a degree in journalism to get into this industry?
You don't need a degree. I have found most people have one, whether it's either like I feel like most people I've met have an undergraduate degree, but I've met people who got a master's degree instead. So most people do go that way, but I think there truly is such a value in having a degree in a specific area that you're interested in too. Like when people, studied science and they become like a science reporter, or they have a specific area. So you don't need one. I feel like it does seem to be the pattern, but no, you don't need it.
And then is there any when you were going through interviews, were they asking for portfolios of work you've done, or what is that like?
Yeah, I think that's very common to have to send things along. Often, when you are like even just doing the original application, like you will be asked to like obviously send your resume, send a cover letter, and I would say they really do read the cover letters because that's such a mark of whether you can write or not. So that's very important in this field is a well written, well structured cover letter. But also they often ask you to attach examples of your past work. And if they don't, then they will later. So I feel like it's great as you're doing work and you've just started out to have a folder or keep a place where you have the work you're most proud of because you will be asked about it.
Something funny that came to mind when we were applying to jobs out of college, we compared cover letters, and
Oh,
had an engineering background and obviously your journalism, and the differences in these is staggering.
it
Yours were
is.
written
It
so
is.
differently than my, like, very literal, "This is my experience." Yours had a hook, yours had a lead, yours was entertaining. It was so funny to look back at that and see
It
the
is a
differences.
weird thing. Yeah. Is that like they're totally different. I feel like they just have totally different goals depending on the industry too. Like, because you're trying to like prove yourself and link stuff, but all yeah, it's so strange.
I always laugh at that. I don't think your essay or your cover letter was actually like this, but my memory is like,
Please.
"Boom, pow, I'm sassy." That wasn't actually it, but
That's exactly what I said. Thank you for remembering it. I love it.
and the final question is, if I'm trying to get this role, are there any skills or programs or areas I should practice or take a course in or try to learn before I start my application process?
Yeah, I think everything about this role is based on your past experience. So
Mhm.
I think that if you are truly coming from a place where you have no experience working in journalism, before you apply to a role, you should try and gain that experience. So whether that is freelancing, working with editors to just like be pitching things, to be able to acquire bylines, like I feel like that would be the goal. If you are in college and they have options for student newspapers, student organizations, I would say to try that out because you can gain clips from that, but it also tells you where, especially like where specifically you want to go. So I think before you even like narrow in on applying, like I would just make sure that you understand the field itself because I think that is so valued.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. Is there anything else you wanna share or advice you wanna give about folks who are entering this industry?
I don't have anything, but I love that you ended with that because that's a classic journalism thing, you know? I feel like you sometimes reporters will tell you they ask that question at the end, just open-ended questions. Sometimes you get your best quotes out of that because people just have I don't know, they say the things that they haven't said in their own words, not guided by your questions. But I don't have anything, so I won't give you my best quote of the day. But
Well, I'm honored to be referred to as a journalist, so thank you.
yes, yes, Katie, thank you so much for this podcast. This is so exciting. I feel so famous right now.
Wait, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you'd like to be featured on a future episode, please go to snacktimemedia.net or reach out at whoareyoucallingaprofessional at snacktimemedia.net. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend or leave a review. Hope you have a great week. See you again next week. Bye, everyone.